People, YouTubers, good evening, good night, good day, wherever you're watching this transmission. It is I, Mike Martins, your humble servant, bringing you a very special, informative, non-pornographic edition of Rants and Lifestyle. We're going to turn off the open lines tonight. I need to cover one of the most main questions that I get asked, or get asked about the most, or people talk about the most. Yes, it's housing, but one thing that people talk always in public or are not embarrassed to talk about is that they're broke. I hear on average, at my shop, I own a little store, anywhere from 3 to 5 people a day tell me that they are broke. Why is everyone all of a sudden so broke? And it's a trend that's happening a lot. And I broke down a lot of things here for you guys, because we talk about GDP. I've been talking about buying power. I've been talking about how the importance of buying power and why everyone's broke today. People in this delusionary state think we're making more money because the dollar sign shows they're making more money. But in the reality of it, they're making a lot less. People made more money bagging groceries in 1982 than the average store manager of a grocery store makes today, by far. So we're going to take a look at that. I got a few stories lined up for you guys to help you guys, understand that, or kind of shed some light, because a lot of young people, millennials and young people, are having a really hard time coming to grips. Why are they always broke? When I was young, when I was in my teenage years, in the late 90s and early 2000s, I had a couple of grand in the bank. It wasn't hard to save money. It wasn't hard to save money. And now people have a really tough time rubbing 2 nickels together. So Buddy's commenting saying, Mike, when is the Vancouver market going to crash? It's going to happen. And today I'm going to discuss, it will happen. It has to. Everything points to it. And today I'm going to explain why everybody's broke today. Why I'm sitting in my store, 5, 6 people would, even in Vancouver, my shop in Vancouver, I'd have 5, 6 people come in and complain that they're broke. 1 out of 5 people would complain they're broke. I hear it in the hallways, walking in the malls. I hear people talking about it everywhere. And we will be discussing why no one's buying homes anymore. Yes, they're unaffordable, but why? How could it be so unaffordable when, you should be able to work a job, a menial job, like a smaller job, and pay rent? But that's not even happening. I had somebody commenting the other day that they were in Massachusetts and working two full-time and a part-time job and don't have money for food. So anyways, we're going to kick it off. It is me, Mike in the Night, Rants and Lifestyle. Happy Monday morning to everyone joining me through the night. Eddie Franco's on board in the comment section. I want to thank people for picking up this feed once in a while or re-listening to my old broadcasts. And the comments are on fire now. People spend money carelessly on expensive clothes and cars they can't afford to impress others. And then Buddy's commenting, people borrow too much, and he locks credit cards and lines of credit. And people buying UTVs, cell phones, etc. But let's really take a step back, okay, people? Do you understand that the average television, okay, we're gonna pick on let's pick on 1974. And I'm going to show you why in today's show, why it's so important that you pay attention to what I'm saying. In 1974, the average television was made in America or Canada. And the average television is probably 12 times or 15 times more expensive, inflation-wise, okay, not dollar-wise. You would have to work a lot harder to buy a TV back in 1974. It'd be something you'd buy every 5 to 10 years because you could not afford to buy a TV every 6 months like you do today. Because the cost of a television, the price of a television has gone down so much. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you, because this is so important that people understand how buying power works and how it's affecting everybody on the planet today. Everybody on this planet, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're middle class, whether you're super uber through the roof class, you still being affected by this buying power. That's why the rich want to make rich, to become more rich and get more money, because they're of the fear of being left behind. Student loans. Someone saying student loans, new gens are already broke. That's true. That's very true. I'm going to show you guys. So before I kick off tonight's show, I want to thank Glenn in Massachusetts for commenting and saying, I love Rants and Lifestyle. It's a really good part of the show. It's a great discussion that you indulge with your subscribers. Thanks for having this, and thanks for understanding. And that's, I just wanted to send a shout out there. And then someone saying, why were the previous generation parents not saving money for their kids' education? No kid should have to pay for education. Student loans. Parents should have been more responsible. Well, here's the deal, people. And I'm going to be very frank. I'm not going to go on the. I'm not going to pick sides, but the parents did not expect the cost of living to skyrocket to where it is, and the value of the money being absolutely worthless. That's what they're afraid of. I mean, that's what they didn't know of. I'm sorry. A majority of our parents, my dad was just like me. I'm not really educated. My dad was worse. I mean, I think he finished grade 4 or grade 5. I just barely finished high school through a co-op program. And if I had to graduate through straight academics, I would have been a high school dropout, because there's no way I would have graduated from high school through academics only. Now, I'm being really frank with you guys on what's happening now, because it's actually huge, and I'm going to get into that right now. So, guys, quick plug here. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I want to stay on YouTube. YouTube is a very easy platform to use. I'll eventually jump to another platform soon, and we could discuss, so I could keep the show going. If I lose, or if I don't get enough, I think they're going to start cutting the live feed, so people can't come on live anymore. I can't come on live anymore with my shows and my call-ins and stuff. So let your friends, even if they're not really on YouTube or they don't care, get them to subscribe to me anyway. If you have multiple accounts, just subscribe to me anyway, so I can stay within that regulatory thing, so I don't get cut off with certain perks that I have on YouTube. So if you have several accounts, subscribe, please. Because what happens is, I'm not asking for handouts, I'm not asking for anything. I just want to be able to keep this channel alive so that I could come on and talk to you guys. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking anyone to change water into wine. I might lose the whole going live streaming if they're going to pass a new rule come in April. I think I need to have minimum 3,000 subscribers or so. I don't know what it is, but I want to just keep my thing going. I mean, I'm not harassing or hurting anybody. So anyways, let's move on from my channel. Now, here's my story for the night. It's a really good one. And when my dad immigrated to Canada from Portugal in 1974, he got himself a job. And he was working in a nursery in Oakville, Ontario. In a nursery, like a landscaping type of thing, grooming trees and I don't know, growing stuff inside of like a greenhouse. And here's the deal with that. I'm not going to explain to you guys what the deal is. When my dad arrived, he got a decent position in the company, very backbreaking, but he was offered $2.15 an hour. And this was in 1974. Okay? Now, what is $2.15 an hour in 1974 worth today? Anywhere from $8.35 to $25.90 an hour. So we're going to take the value of $25.90 per hour. That's what it's worth today. So in 1974, if you were working a menial job, it'd be worth today's money, $25.90 per hour, $2.15. So basically, if you were to make what minimum wage is, let's say minimum wage is $10, that would be roughly $120 an hour to live that lifestyle of 1974. Okay? Now, let me explain to you how that works, okay? Now, purchasing power calculator is really good because it gives you an idea, and this is very good program. I'll leave a link below. It's free. You just go in and type in the year, desired income, and desired year today. Like put today's date so you can see. Now, income value of a commodity was $17.10 from the $2.15. Income value is measured using a relative average income that would be used by commodity. That measures GDP per capita. Now, let's scroll down to the part I really need to show you guys so I get to my point of what I'm trying to say here, okay? Economic power is the value of the income or wealth, and it is $25.90 of today. And economic power, and let me just scroll this up here, measures the amount of income or wealth relative to the total output of the economy. So we're talking about the economy of 1974. When compared to other incomes or wealth, it shows the relative influence of the owner of this income or wealth has in controlling the compensation of total amount production in the economy. This measure uses the share of the GDP. So here's the deal. In 1974, my dad was making $2.15 an hour. And I called him today and asked him. And he said, yeah, it was about $2.15 to $2.20. He got up to $2.25 after being there a year. And that is roughly equivalent in the economic power to $25.90 in today's money. So basically, $10 an hour in 1974 would be let's say $15 an hour today. We're not making. And when I was in my car and I was making a video a few days back, and I told you guys, we need to make about $120 minimum wage because my dad was in 1974 was $2.15. We need to make about $120 an hour minimum to keep up with the cost of what everything costs today. To live the 1974 lifestyle, okay, the 1974 lifestyle, I'm talking you got your car, your house. And now let's jump over to the next article, okay? So you guys catch my drift here, okay? So this is measuring worth, okay? So $2.15 an hour in 1974, you were booming. Booming. Now, I found this trying to find housing price. So the typical house, this is in Calgary, but across Canada, I kind of found the same results, and America, okay? An 1,100 square foot bungalow costs roughly $40,000 in 1974, roughly. I asked my dad how much he bought the house in 1974. He said he paid $32,000. Okay, interest rates were 11%, not 0 or 5, 11, roughly 11%. And I asked him today, how long did it take him to pay off his house? He paid it off in 4 years. Okay, now, sorry guys, got a cough. So, $40,000 in 1974 was about 2.8 times the average household income. Okay? So it's roughly 11. So my dad was below minimum wage at that time. So the average wage was about $3.50 an hour. Proper pay. Like above minimum. Like a teacher would make that, right? So 2.8 times the average household income, $40,000, okay? Now, the same home in Calgary is selling roughly, this is in 2014, this is before all this stuff, $470,000, a whopping 6.3 times the average household income. 6.3 times. It's huge. People can't fathom how much this bogs down your buying power. Huge. You're making more in number value, but you're buying less. So now, let's take a whole step back from this, okay, guys? Wednesday show, trends in the housing market. Trends in the housing market. The average Vancouver home was 12.6 times the average income. But yet people want to live there, or have to live there, or are stuck there. 12.6 times the average income, your annual income. That is phenomenal. These numbers are incredible. If people could only understand how much the value of our dollar has crumbled, how much our education has spiraled and lost credibility, how much our what you call pharmaceutical or hospital or healthcare has crumbled. Instead of advancing with time, oh yeah, we pick up a couple of MRI machines. Yeah, we get a couple of good doctors, and we're not at the level we should be. We're not getting paid nearly enough that we should be getting paid. And when I say the average, a minimum wage should be $115 an hour, and people laugh at me. They think I'm nuts. But when you look at, this is in 2014 in Calgary, the average house in 1974 was $40,000, a typical bungalow. And now in 2014, it's $470,000, 6.3 times the average income. Now, watch this. The average pay in 1974 was $11,000 a year, and that ranges to roughly $132,000 in today's value economically. So basically, remember when I did that payment calculator a few weeks back and the actual cost of borrowing? When I told you guys, I said, look, I'm trying to get this deal to fit here. I had two screens open. I had a TDS open, total debt service ratio. I had a calculator open to calculate with the stress test page open from CIBC with their new lending rules. Going into that, showing you guys exactly how much you need to make. It came out to about $160,000. You have to make $153 a year to be with $100,000 down and zero credit card debt to buy a 2-bedroom townhouse with a 1-car garage in Coquitlam. That was that video has over 1,000, close to 2,000 views, and that video is very important because people need to come to grips that either A, people need to get more money, or B, the cost of things need to come down. Okay? Like I said, the price of a TV has gone down drastically. In 1974, you would have to save up a long time to buy a TV, and you wouldn't buy a TV every year. You'd buy a TV every 5 to 10 years. You wouldn't buy a TV every other year. Now, people are buying 2, 3 TVs on Black Friday. For what? Because the cost of a television has drastically gone down. So someone's comment. A lot of people commenting here. Anthony, walking journey in the comments here. And the central bank scam, and people commenting here. This is Andre saying the central bank scam, where private central banks print money and change government's interest, is a rigged game. There is no winning unless the central banks and governments are owned again. Yeah, I think private capital companies, and then someone's commenting, it's crazy. Finance and economics is here in the chat too. So this is extremely important that I give this information, because a lot of this information will end up dying with me. I'm going to teach my kids how things were and educate my kids on the importance of understanding, when getting into debt, how it would cripple your lifestyle, your way of life, your travels, your so many things. And it's important that I at least say what I need to tell people. And that's why we need to keep my channel alive. Now, so in 1974, 11,000 is equivalent to 132,000 per year. That's what the average person should be making today, but we're not. And 11,000 is actually after tax. I actually did a payment calculator from 1974 to get this rough number. And that's on a teacher salary. Okay. On my dad's salary at $2.15 an hour in 1974 was roughly $25.90 an hour. So his salary was a lot less. It was about $9,000 a year he would make. And he paid off the house in about 4 years, I think. 5 years, what he told me on the phone. So that is that. Now, let me move on to this here. This one right here. I got a really interesting one for you guys. Now, I notice the devaluation of the Canadian, American, and other currencies. I notice a drop in 1959. 1959, for some bizarro reason, was one of the very rare years where your income was in line with your cost of living, standard of living, your day-to-day expenditures. For some reason, 1959 was the year of years. So if you were living in 1959 and you were employed, okay, so what I did was I went back and found payroll from teachers from 1959. And this graph here shows, oh no, what happened to my, there it is. This graph here shows in 1959 in a Canadian elementary school, okay, the average teacher made all teachers, and then secondary teachers were $300 more. But all teachers in 1959 made $4,995 per year. That is $4,995, $5,000, give or take. And then elementary school teachers made a little bit more. Actually, elementary school teachers made $100 less, $4,815, and secondary school teachers made $5,276. Now watch this. Watch this. 1959. Watch this. In 1959, the value of $4,990 is equivalent to a range from $32,000 a year, okay, to $178,000. But it gets better. Watch this. So, 2016, the relative value of $4,990 ranges from $32,000 to $178,000. Now, watch this, people. Income value of the commodity is $97,600 in today's money. I don't know a lot of teachers that make that much money, but that's for income value. Now, economic power. Are you ready for this? $178,000. You had a ton of money to invest back. Man, if you invested in IBM back in that day, after that share has been cut and split and folded and cut and split and rederivative, this and that, you put $10 in IBM then, you'd be a billionaire today. Not, well, a millionaire today, a multi-millionaire today. But yes, so that the economic power value of 178 large. Now, let me go back here. Cost of living in 1959. Okay, so this is America, Canada. The dollar was roughly at par at that time. It was kind of across the board. All the English-speaking countries were around there, like USA, UK. So, how much did things cost in 1959? So this is the glory year. It's the glory year. 1959 was the golden year. And this was the best time to work at a gas station. Because you could, now watch this. The average cost of buying a new house, $12,400. Means you could pay the house off in 4 damn years at 10% interest. Now, average yearly wages, $5,010. You go back to the school teacher's wage, $5,000. So this is spot on. 1959 was a spot on year. So if we could get the historical economical graphs to understand why this happened, we could actually repeat 1959 and bring the end of modern day slavery and usher in, because all we have to, either we make more according to what I'm showing you here, or the price of things go down drastically to average. So now if we reverse a teacher's pay, now let's reverse the buying power. So if, let's say the average teacher's pay is $60,000 a year and we reverse that, that brings it back to $5,000 a year. So it doesn't add up. So $60,000 a year is not enough money to live in today. So let's go back to this graph here. So teachers make, in 1959, the salary payroll was $4,995. The cost of living, the average yearly wage in 1959 was $5,010. So the average teacher made a little less than the average wage. The cost of a gallon of gasoline was 25 cents. The average cost of a brand new car was $2,200. Mind you, the average cost, and I checked this out from 1959 to today, the average cost of car is within line. I think the average cost of a Toyota, a brand new Toyota, is within line of our time, of our wages, but not housing. And I think food isn't either. It's way too expensive for food. So a car is kind of $2,200 in 1959, is roughly $47,000, $50,000 today. That's in line. But our houses and the cost of living is not matching. So let's see what people are commenting here. Unless we remove the central bankers, we're destined to fail. This fractional reserve system was meant to fail. For every dollar printed, our government accumulates debt to private interest. That's correct. And a lot of people don't understand that the Federal Reserve in the United States is a privately owned company. A lot of people don't know that they're borrowing money to sustain their country, right? And someone's saying the divergence from historic purchasing power is nuts. We're getting killed. Oh, yeah. So let's go back to the drawing board here. $5,010 a year. I would gladly make $5,010 a year if it gave me the buying power of $178,000. And that's I'm going to have to come up with some sort of a in-depth conspiracy theory to figure out why this is happening. or why we're in such a predicament right now. Now, let me take a step back, okay? I was thinking of a conspiracy the other day when I was just thinking things over. I was kind of trying to make sense of why is it like that. I think I know why. I think this is a conspiracy, though, okay? It's not, I don't have any proof, and I can't back anything I'm saying, okay? But I have a feeling that we would have become so powerful, the average Canadian working minimum wage would have become so powerful with the buying power that they could actually go to a country like Mexico or Costa Rica or Honduras, buy a house free and clear, buy a car free and clear, start a business free and clear, start like expanding into like and buying out those countries. We sold out all our jobs overseas to China and Asia and Taiwan and Singapore. We sold all our jobs out. Now those people are coming to buy us out here. So it would be interesting if we kept our industrial complex, our industry going here, and finding a way to become more green. Okay, being more green and keeping it going and keeping Canadians working to supply Canadians with products. A TV would be $5,000, but the average person is making that in a week anyway. So it would have balanced out. But we would have gotten to a point where our buying power would be so strong. And I looked in 1974, in 1959, the average cost of a house in Mexico, in the state of Guerrero, in the city of Tasco, I found some land records, and I have friends that live there. In 1959, the average cost of a house was $300 American dollars for a big house and land. The average house in Veracruz in 1974 was just under $1,000 American in 1974. So what would have happened here in Canada, we would have stayed in our minimum wage jobs, paid off our houses, paid off our cars, paid off everything, and then start vacationing and snowbirding in other countries and settling and buying out the locals there. And I think this is my conspiracy of why we were held back and why we didn't progress with the change of times. 1959 was the golden year. 1959, from what I'm projecting and seeing from the graphs, was the 1 year where our cost of, basically it's 1-to-1, where our motor is turning at the same, our transmission is turning at the same. And that's a 1-to-1 ratio. That was the only time. It was the sweet spot, the Goldilocks zone, whatever you want to call it. It was the time where it was just perfect. So, ties back to this. So, $4,999 in 1959 was roughly, through economic power, $178,000. And that, my friends, buys you that house in Coquitlam today, under the standards we have today. That $700,000 house I was talking about, where the average person needs to make around $150 to $160 just to get a loan to buy that house. This 1959 is in line. Let's move on here. So you could see here how teachers barely moved. Look at that, 1968, they only made an extra $2,000 a year. Why? Because inflation was really low. Inflation was under control. Inflation, so within a 10-year gap, they only got a $2,000 raise to $7,000. Because things, and then, back to my favorite year, 1982. And that's when things started to take off. Once you get to 1974, things are still within check, 11,000 in 1974, the average teacher made. And then when you got to 1984, that's when it took off. That's when inflation started to hit, 21,935. And then once you get to 1993, 35,000, 40,000. But once you get to 2006, 49,000. And 2006, 49,000. It's not a lot. It doesn't equivalent to $160,000 buying power. And someone's commenting, it is a kind of enslavement that both public and private interests. Mind you, a Kodak movie camera in 1959 was $67. And that was pretty pricey back in the day, you know, when you only make $12,400 a year. But what happened in let's see what happened in 1959. Batista flees from Cuba. And then in Castro, victorious revolutionaries arrive in Havana. Manuel Urete León becomes Cuba's new president, and Jose Miro Cardona becomes prime minister. Fidel Castro becomes prime minister of Cuba. And what else happened in 1959? Tibetans revolt against the Chinese. U.S. 1959, U.S. President Eisenhower signs the Hawaii Admission Act into law, and Hawaii becomes the 50th state of the United States of America. So 1959 was the golden sweet spot year, where it's a 1-to-1 ratio from income to spending. Now, let's look at the cost of living, for example. Vancouver is a good model city because every other city is within that same, you know. So a 4-person family monthly cost is $3,830. I have 4 people. I have my wife, my 2 kids, and my stepson. There's 4 of us. And we're looking at rent. So this, using the estimator, is about $4,000 a month to live. Single person is $1,000 without rent. And the cost of living index Vancouver is 0.18% higher than Toronto. So they're all within Brisbane, Auckland. They're all within London. They're all within this kind of, you know, same struggling. You know what I'm saying? So someone's commenting, you could live in, yeah. You see, when I went, the first time I went to Mexico, I went, I think it was in 2000, in the year 2000. I went to Mexico, and the buying power was pretty good then. You could do really well, you know, with 500 Canadian, 600 Canadian. I mean, you could just party it out for 2 straight weeks. And that's heavy partying. That's like going out every day. That's on cruise, going on little cruises, day trips. That's going on outback trips. And yeah, that's like super loaded. You know what I'm saying? So look at this, people. A liter of milk, the cost of living is just phenomenal. So this is a really good... So here it is, price. So to buy an apartment, price per square foot is $12,016. Wow. Per square meter. Whew, scared the crap out of me. Apartment in the city center, $12,000 per square meter. And right now in Mexico, in the state of Ixtapa, a square meter is about $70 US per square meter of land, or a home in the town. Sorry, it's $70 a square meter. So you see where things are headed here. So 4-person family monthly cost in Vancouver is $3,830, where in 1959 it was just under $58. So you had a lot of disposable income back in the day, because everything, it's not that it was cheaper, it was you were making enough. Oh, things were cheaper back in the day, everything was so much cheaper. No, it was a 1-to-1 ratio. The motor's turning at the same as the transmission. You're making more than enough to live and giving yourself disposable income. And that's a good ratio to be in. We're now at a 1 to 16.5 ratio. Your income, you need 16.5 times your income. You're living 16.5 times less than what you should be making to be living a normal life. And that's how bad it is. Let's move on here. For Vancouver, housing and income don't add up. What, you don't say? What, did you just find this out? What, did you just decided that this was something you should bring up? This should have been brought up back in the 90s. For Vancouver, housing and income don't add up. It is no secret that rich investor class is buying up properties in the cities around the world, including Vancouver. Now, back to what I said, to my conspiracy theory. I have no proof to back it up. The reason why we lost that 1-to-1 ratio back in the day, where buying power was powerful and we could live a good life, is because I have a feeling that other countries were in fear of me going to India and buying up a whole province and working minimum wage, because it would have gotten to that. I would have gone to Africa and buy 500 square miles of land to open a tobacco plantation and become even more rich. That's what they were afraid of us going out to buy. We gave everything away. We gave everything away. All our jobs, all our industry, all our production, all our fabrication, all our minerals. So now others are coming to buy us out, when it was supposed to be us. I'm supposed to be owning my tobacco plantation in southern Angola. I was supposed to be born in Angola. My family lived in Africa, Portuguese Africa. But anyways, people are joining us in the chat. Please watch this from the beginning. If you're just joining the show, please watch this from the beginning. You have to see why it's very important. If you're catching the show now, scroll it back to the beginning. You need to see from the beginning exactly where we're at right now, because this is really good. Someone says, that's a good idea. Or have an off-grid cabin somewhere on some farmland as well. That could be one reason why we were taken off that 1-to-1 ratio. So go back to the beginning of the show if you want to know what I'm talking about, the 1-to-1 ratio, because I've been talking about it way too much. So the average pay, let's see if it goes here in Vancouver. The average income Metro Vancouver in 2009 was $41,176, according to Canada Revenue Agency statistics. In Vancouver proper, we are getting by on $43,911. However, Richmond residents are scraping by at $33,350. That's horrible. And the average detached Vancouver selling price home is $1.1 million. It doesn't work, people. It is not working. And Adam Lives. Adam Lives, go back to the beginning of the show, scroll back, so you know where we're at right now. And he's saying it's all about greed and love for material and big corporations. Checkmate. Go back to the beginning of the show. Scroll back so you can see what we're talking about here, because this is getting intense. Here's another one here. For millennials in Vancouver, living ain't easy. Yes. And they keep, a lot of millennials are blaming the baby boomers because they're working longer. They have to work longer. They're not making what they used to make. Even those high-end engineers making $70,000 a year is nowhere close to the $5,000 a year they used to make in 1959. That could basically worth how much was it? That was my dad's 1974. And that was 1959. $178,000 buying power value. I want to know in the comments below or in the chat, why were we taking off the 1-to-1 system? Do you believe in my conspiracy that we were taking off the 1-to-1 system because could we have progressed so much? We could have opened our own companies and really establish something and really get ahead in life and prosper for Jetsons-like future. like a real future with flying cars. You know, something's really holding us back. So let's move here. And LA, homelessness is out of control. I've been talking about this. And this cost of living, and then people are like, well, you could buy a Whopper meal for $5. You're buying garbage. Yes, food isn't that expensive, because I remember a Whopper meal used to be $5 in 1984. It was $4.50 in Canada, because it was made with grade A Canadian beef. It was actual salad off a local Canadian farm. The wheat and stuff was made through Canada's breadbasket. It was different. And I would gladly pay $25 for a Whopper that I ate in the early 80s. Gladly. So someone's commenting, that's nothing, Mike Martins. In Toronto, some areas and suburbs where I live, the average working poor wage of males is 26 large. For females, is 22 large. I don't understand how people get by. It's phenomenal. 1959. We need to go back to 1959. And if you're just joining us, I'll explain to you why. I've been researching this for the last couple of days. And 1959 was the golden year. It was the 1-to-1 ratio year for us. 1959. The average teacher in this graph made $4,995 per year. And your buying power in 1959 had an income value of $97,600 of today, 2017, and it gave you an economic value power of $178,000. We need that Goldilocks zone back. We need the sweet spot back. We need to continue. We need to start a 1-to-1 ratio where what you make not only pays because it's all going through, and whatever comes out your exhaust or out the end is more disposable income. So, 1959, I would gladly work for $5,000 a year because I could invest. I could buy multiple properties. Oh man, that was the time. Let's move ahead. Los Angeles, it's getting really bad. A lot of people I've been receiving 2 to 5 messages, comments, or emails per day from people from California that are living in cars. They go to the Walmart to get Wi-Fi. Some of them even watch my channel saying there needs to be a correction. And I know we've been talking about making a correction or something needs to be done because it's just not adding up. And the funny part is, when the greed kicked in and all these big corporations sold out to foreign companies to make stuff for cheaper, we sold out our futures. We sold our lives. We sold everything. Because today we're the ones on a minimum wage job that should go out and buy land in Mexico and buy a house in Mexico and pay it off in 2-3 years. We should be at that right now, at that level, but it was taken from us. It was sold out from us. Now, the people we sold out to are buying us out, and we lost. We're never going to... The Canadian proper finished. The Australian proper finished. The New Zealand proper finished. So, Jordy is commenting here. Oh, but let's say JW. I love the Whopper combo, but damn, it's pushing $9 now. I would pay $50 for a Whopper combo from the early 80s. With that juice and cholesterol. That grade A Canadian Calgary, Alberta beef. I would pay big bucks for a sandwich from that time. Anyways. Jordy is commenting saying, in 1971, Richard Milhouse Nixon canceled the direct international convertibility of the United States dollar to gold. That's when printing money went wild. Yes. When was America on the silver standard? They had the $20 silver back. It was a silver dollar. Was it 20 or was it a $2 silver? They were also on a silver monetization in the 30s or 20s, and they took it off. I can't remember when that was, but yes. And if they can fix Detroit, they can fix the USA. That's correct. What they have to do is they have to put a bunch of tariffs on everything coming into the country. There's no reason why. I was watching a documentary on people, the honey makers, the people that make honey in the United States and Canada. What was happening was China was selling honey dirt cheap to Taiwan, to Vietnam, to Cambodia, and then in turn, them cutting the honey and then selling it to Canadian retail markets for dirt cheap. And the Canadian and American honey growers or honey farmers or whatever you want to call them were suffering. Now there's a lot of tariffs coming into place now to protect them so that honey is bought locally and you know what you're ingesting in your damn body. You know what I'm saying? And then someone's commenting here, yep, we need a gold standard back so our money actually is backed by something. Right now, our currency or currencies aren't backed by anything. They're supposedly backed by economic power or economic strength, which gives the currency its value against other currencies, right? But we got a problem. Canada's economy, Australia's economy, New Zealand's economy, UK's economy is backed off housing and student loans. They sold you that education, promising you the world. Where are you now? You got a degree. You know what that means? You lost 4 years of work that you could have been working those 4 years. And you got to pay for a mortgage and you don't have the house. Someone's commenting here. What's the point of working to accumulate money when you get robbed by inflation at 2% a year minimum with wages rising without wages? Oh, wages have... Okay, if you go back to the beginning of the show, we need to be at $118 an hour to be living at the 1-to-1 ratio. If we want to live at a 1-to-1 ratio where... This is a theory. I'm actually coining this term. If we want to live like 1959, I'll go back to here. The average teacher, and I'll make this very clear, was making $5,000 a year. I pulled the payroll right here. And that $5,000 a year is equivalent to $178,000 economic power. Okay? And that was an income value commodity of $97,600. It's very important that you understand that. But we're not making that anymore. So roughly, in today's times, we need to make roughly $120 an hour to be at a 1-to-1 ratio. That's minimum wage. Okay? So we're nowhere close to that. So basically you're working... So when you do the math of what minimum wage is and you multiply it by 10, that's what we're supposed to be at, where a lot of cities I showed you are 10 times more than the person's income to live. Like, it's to live a proper life, to have a house. Vancouver is 12, what was it? 12.6 times your income. The average city is about 10 times your income. So, yes, it's got to be $100. It works out to that when you actually look at what it was from 1959 to today. Thanks. Someone's commenting here. I remember when Whoppers were going for 99 cents. And then someone's commenting here. Thanks for breaking all this down, Mike. It's a topic that often left by the wayside. But a lot of people do say, yeah, you know, back in the day, a comic book was 5 cents. A loaf of bread was 25 cents. You know, no. But okay, that's fine. But you still had disposable income. Man, you were a teacher back in 1959. Man, you had it made. You had it made. And why are these people still working today from 1959 until today? Because their $60,000 or $70,000 a year doesn't even cover the spread. It doesn't cover the spread. Today's spread is so wide and big, it doesn't even cover it. 70 large a year does not cover the spread. Then someone's commenting, what can we do about it? wages haven't increased to offset this, the cost of living. The problem with that was, I think they wanted to keep us poor or held back because we would have been so far ahead of countries like Mexico, Brazil, parts of Africa. We would have been so much further ahead that it would have been very problematic for us in a way where we would be banned from buying homes in other countries because we just go and buy towns because of how we've caught up and we've kept our buying power within our expenditures and keeping it balanced, right? So someone's saying, teacher made 99K here in Alberta after 10 years. That's plenty here. No, let's go back. I'm going to go back to this every time. Teachers made $5,000 a year in 1959, and that's equivalent to $178,000 economic power in today's date. Almost 200,000. Okay, so someone's asking us who held us back. I think it was the banking institutions that were put into place, the fractional reserve lending that was implemented. I think removing us from a gold standard. Man, I wish we had a broccoli standard, any standard to back our currency. We are backed on economic growth and wealth and GDP. When you actually get into the finer lines of things, it gets really scary. And then Canadian dollars backed by oil, commodities, and agriculture. They can print a great deal, and we only feel subtle CPI changes, and the CPI is rigged. Well, everything is. Everything is a gong show, and it's rigged. So let's move here. Seattle's homeless crisis is the worst in the country. Why all of a sudden? A lot of foreign investors went south of the border to Seattle from Vancouver the second Vancouver implemented its foreign buyers tax. Seattle got so bad that crooked real estate agents went south of the border to Seattle and Tacoma and other cities in King County to actually educate a lot of the real estate agents there, making brochures in Mandarin and simplified Chinese, brochures of Seattle to show investors the potential of investing in Seattle. And look what's happened today. Seattle didn't have a homeless crisis like this. I mean, Seattle, before that foreign buyers tax went into play, Seattle's homelessness wasn't even in the top 10. It's gotten so bad, it's the worst in the country now. So look at this. What city has the worst homelessness crisis? This is by metro areas, rate per 10,000 residents. Number 1 is Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. Number 2, Massachusetts, Boston. Number 3, New York City. Okay? Number 4, San Francisco. Number 5, Los Angeles. Number 6, Seattle, King County. Number 7, Portland. You see how the entire west coast of the United States is completely bought out? You see how the east coast cities are starting to get bought out? This is by state per 10,000 residents. And this is not metro areas. This is other areas. Alaska's even in there. The whole west coast. Now Nevada's moving in. Colorado's moving in. Look at this. Percentage of homelessness sleeping outside. Number 1 is Los Angeles County, LA County. Number 2, Las Vegas, Clark County. Number 3, San Francisco, 63%. Number 4. Where's number 4? Where are you, number 4? San Diego. Number 5, Seattle. Number 6, Austin. Number 7, San Antonio. Number 8, Portland. And number 9, Houston. And this is huge. And this is from the Seattle Times. It was published a few days ago.
But right now, for those people who are homeless on the streets of Canada.
So they're talking about homelessness. Where is this? This one was sent to me. I get sent to me so many homelessness stuff, like, for me to talk about on my housing channel. So I'm talking about it right now. Major pledge to bump up 8,000 homes immediately for the homeless. So this is other places in the UK that are trying, you know, to get homelessness and people off the streets. Homelessness in Hong Kong. Soaring costs of fuel, housing crisis, and Asian financial hub. Hong Kong, routers. Chung Munk Gun's home is an illegal wooden shack under a highway in one of the poorest areas of Hong Kong, where the sky-high property prices and a yawning wealth gap has helped fuel a surge in homelessness. It's a problem. The 72-year-old earns about Hong Kong dollars 10,000. That's 1,297 a month, working 7 days a week at a frozen meat store in the working class district of Mong Kung, the short strip across Victoria Harbour from the city's opulent financial center, where property prices up 200% from the past decade, and bed in a tiny windowless apartment often shared with other tenants, going for about $2,000 a month. So this is what's happening. Hong Kong is struggling. So someone brought up a really good point in the comment section. Mike, in the 1950s, we didn't have all these robots, machines, taking the jobs of millions of people and cheaper to produce items. It sucks. But if we played our cards right, we should be colonizing other planets and leaving the robots here doing our work. I mean, I'm thinking really outside the box, I know. But I'm saying we should be owning these fast food restaurants. We should have them. They should be ours, not a huge corporation. Everything should be independently wealthy, and these machines should be working for us, because why would anyone want to work in a fast food place when you got all these machines doing your work? If we kept to the one-to-one standard that happened in 1959, we would be so much better off today if we just kept that standard. But I think we got so far ahead of ourselves that other countries like Honduras, Guatemala, Cuba, wherever, Mozambique, they would have been so far behind that we would have eventually bought out all these places. So someone's commenting, if they claimed at university in the 1970s that technology would give everyone an extra leisure time and people would have to work 20-hour work days as a result. And someone's saying, you go, Mike. And then with robotics, more jobs will be lost unless you own the robots and lease them. You will be a serf. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if everything continued from 1959 to today according to plan, and we kept our standards the same, and things went, I would gladly have robots doing things for me, because we would be so far ahead independently wealthy-wise that Canada would be like a Dubai. Everybody would be wealthy, and people would be throwing money around like crazy. But we lost it. We gave it away. And people are asking, you know, why did we give it away? Why did we sell out our futures? Why did we sell out our children's futures? Why did we sell out our grandkids' futures? Why did we sell out Canada? Why did we sell out our culture? Why did we sell out our language? Why did we sell out our own families? Why? So someone's commenting on my video, say, I'm so effing high. I wonder what they're commenting on. Oh, it's my soccer thing. It's my soccer thing. Yeah, that's another story for another time. The amount of trashing I get on that. Oof. Here we go, people. San Diego Tribune. So this was sent to me from someone living on the streets in San Diego. that watches my show at the public library. Region wrestles with symptoms of homeless crisis. It's heartbreaking. Punishing those in need of act is evil. A lot of these grandmas, look at this teenage girl sitting there. A little too late to acknowledge the problem. Let's move on. East Bay Express. United Nations expert describes Oakland, California, and California's homeless crisis as cruel. United Nations special reporter. I'm going to move on. It's depressing. Toronto can't solve its homeless crisis on its own. This is going to become an epidemic across the world. Someone's leaving the chat. Take care. Adam lives from California. Peace. So he's left the chat. Chat's still going. Homeless crisis. Of course it can't handle it on its own. Homelessness is becoming a global epidemic. New Zealand government offers false promises to reduce poverty. What's new? A politician's lying? What, this is the first time? Homeless man with nowhere else to go dies on floor of packed London shelter on Christmas Eve. And I could bet you what you want that guy probably fought in a war, or that guy is an expat or something. That guy really worked. You know what I'm saying? Probably served this country, probably paid his dues. Rough sleeper numbers in England rise for 7th year running. 4,751 people bedded down outside overnight in 2017, up 15% from previous year. It's in London. Self-declared Mayor Martin Place brings his homeless tent city back to the heart of Sydney 6 months after police tore it down. Self-declared mayor, here he is. If people don't know who he is. Brought his tent city back. There he is. The self-proclaimed mayor took Facebook to share a video of him setting up a soup kitchen nearby Marquee Square. This shouldn't be happening, people. Extraordinary numbers of homeless women and CBRM sparks call for shelter. This is Nova Scotia. It's Cape Breton. And that's it, folks. I'm tuning out. I'll have live call-ins for Trends in the Housing Market this Wednesday, 7 p.m. LA County time. Don't forget to join me. That's 9 p.m. New York time. Sorry, that's 10 p.m. New York time. Sorry. Anyways, guys, I want to thank you for joining me on the show. Get this out there. Share my videos. Let people know. I just want to keep my channel alive. I just want to keep this, you know, I'm not getting anything from it. I just feel, almost like my soul is free, or I feel like I've accomplished something, or I don't know, I just feel like I'm trying to make the world a better place than when I've come into it, you know? I don't know. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe, let your coworkers know, you know, kind of more of a street talk, you know, kind of more offbeat, kind of different spin, a non-educated spin on things, easy to understand, kind of let's get to it type of thing. Leave your comments below, and God bless everybody. Thanks for watching, and thanks for everything.